Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, where DFM continue their strong showing on the international stage, taking down the LLA's Team Ace. I think the game went pretty much to expectation. The early game from DFM, definitely very dominant, but I think sneaking away their Baron, I think just showing a greater understanding of the Rift.
It's kind of just DFM, you know, if you allow them to take these chances, they will just take them. Worst case scenarios will be that they'll just back off. And yeah, I think you're completely right when saying that this game did go as to expectations. Once again, Team Ace have a very slow play style, and their lanes were never really facilitated. And when your bot lane just gets run over by Utapon, who had a stellar performance on Delusion, it's really difficult to play the game.
Jett, I'm trying to think. We were trying to, you're really trying to help us understand teams that play for Herald or play for Dragon, and DFM just get everything.
They just got both. So if you are really good compared to the other team, especially with like an early game team composition, you can just get both.
Right.
And it's way better to get both, obviously. It's like cake, eating it. Both good.
And First Blood, and First Tower.
Surprisingly sweaty game for DFM, though. Like, we'll look at this. They got first Drake, first Herald. They got a Baron at, what, like 24 minutes. They won at, like, 27. So you think they stomped them. I think they were actually very close to losing this game.
Okay, give me a second before we get to that. Let's quickly announce the OP player of the game. It was DFM's veteran Utapon playing that Lucian, I think, from the very early plays in terms of both picking up the kills and then moving that pressure around. It felt to me like the game was kind of over by 12 minutes, and that's when we're going to start building some of the sweatiness.
You know, the average of Detonation focused me of getting ahead with 3k gold by 14. They were 3k ahead by 14 minutes once again, and a large amount of that lead came from this bot lane. And I think the fact that the bot lane was getting ahead against 5kid, who in the LLA playoffs had been one of the reasons they were dominant, really just put this Team Ace even further behind. You know, he's so used 5kid to be playing the Sire, but Utapon and Delusion just completely shut him down, and he never really got to play the game.
Absolutely. Just such a great performance by DFM's bottom lane. And then I also think, even though you don't see it in combat power, the Umbral Blade of Graves jungle gave them incredible vision control, which is why they were able to sneak that Baron.
They were indeed. Now, of course, there was that Dragon, I think the second or third, and when we bring up the PGB, the post-game breakdown, I do want to ask Jett, like, just how much of a chance you gave Team A's, because they were able to pick up, I think it was the third Dragon, they stalled things out, and that's exactly what the team comp wanted.
I mean, the Baron sneak is where the game turned, because I think A's, you saw actually the third Dragon fight is where you realized it was going to be close, because DFM couldn't actually get position and they couldn't retake ground, and then as fourth Dragon was coming up, A's over-prioritized and DFM got it. But what I want to point the attention to, Wolf was talking about this on the desk, and the Wukong, I actually don't want to see teams pick Graves and Lucian into Wukong. I think if this game got late, that would have been extremely dangerous, because Wukong can invisibly get on top of them and then has a high amount of armor to be able to take them down. They snowballed the game and they were able to get away with it, but that's I think, one of the reasons we're seeing more Wukong.
I'll give you the other end of the coin. Don't first pick Wukong if you won't have lanes that can get ahead by themselves, because Wukong needs that level 6 as well to really get through with it. And, you know, 5kid down towards the bottom lane, they once again, they just got completely stumped. But I also think the other side of the coin in that team composition was that the Samira pick was good. It was into the Yone, you know, coming through that can block the ultimate. We saw it at the Drake fight. I think it was the third Drake where they finally stopped the Drake fighting. And at that point, I actually felt like, you know what, Team Ace, maybe despite being 3k gold down, they will be able to hold on and take it in the later stages of the team fight. But to bring it back to Jett's point as well, DFM, they were too clever. They just said, we dropped the Drakes, now we just play the map, and now you're losing.
DFM just straight up outplayed them. Like, I think the draft advantage was actually in the favor of Team A's pretty heavily if we're getting to 5v5 team fights, but the lanes were the first thing that went heavily in DFM's favor. And then also just better map play post 20 minutes. I mean, it ended up being like, credit to DFM, they played well.
Hop in particular on that Renata, every single handshake was impactful. Every single one, timing it particularly well, comboing with the team. And I mean, that's why that laning phase went the way that it did. I briefly want to talk about the fact that 2 out of the 10 champions we saw in Game 2 appeared in Game 1, the Wukong and Lucian, right? So it's pretty significant differences. I do think the fact that we're seeing that Wukong 2 games in a row, Wolf was talking about, you were mentioning it, like Wukong, Wolf's a little bit like, wait for better players to play it. I think it's the summer.
You know where I heard that before? I was at World's Play-ins watching a Mumu get picked again and again and again and again in the support role. So you can give me this, but I'll be looking at the gameplay for now and then
I'm interested to see whether this is going to be scrim bubbles or whether this is going to be the group stage meta. It's way too early to tell, but I do think, you know, the fact that we are seeing significant difference between games, so now we're going to move on to a different group as well. It will be interesting to track how that plays out. We are a couple minutes delayed as we're getting set up for the next group. It's going to be G2 G2 taking on Order. They are back at MSI after 3 years, and of course they won in 2019 with Caps and Jankos still at the helm. Let's start to talk a little bit about G2. It's a brand new look for them, a rebuild after a failed 2021. BrokenBlade, Flakked, and Targamas have now joined the veterans and the old names of Jankos and Caps.
Yeah, I think it also just gives them a new style. They still have the same versatility, new players. You know, they came in with a very topside heavy focus in the regular season. Moving on towards the playoffs, the players finally started gelling together. They also started playing easier teamfight composition, but I think that really facilitated the style that Flakked has, which is be a hyper carry in the late game. It allowed Targamas to excel in what he's best at, making moves on the map. So I think the triple men of just Targamas, Jankos, and Caps linking up on the map, creating pressure, was really what made this team so difficult to play against.
I think as well the development from G2, and this will be a story you'll hear a lot with, especially with EG as well as Order and G2. All three teams, surprisingly, all three teams fourth in their region, all three teams making that lower bracket run. And when we see those ORN clips, you know, in this replay package, I do think BrokenBlade is a player that surprised me the most when we went from regular season to playoffs. He was that carry, the damage dealer, and then he started playing those team fighting champs in playoffs.
Yeah, BrokenBlade impressed me a lot, and I think it's one of the big things that led to their change in playstyle and approach in playoffs. And this is going to be a story for all of the teams in this group, as we've already mentioned, since they all did struggle in the regular season. For G2, that was an 11-7 record, which was good enough for 4th place. Then they lost a best of 5 to get knocked down in the loser's bracket. Then they didn't just start playing better, but they almost just changed the way they played the game.
Revamped themselves completely.
They threw out the book. Part of that is ORN. BrokenBlade's always been a strong laner, but this was a champion that could be a strong laner, ends up being a strong team fighter. I mean, every time you describe ORN, he actually sounds really perfect.
At this level of play, he is.
Yeah, but if BrokenBlade can do well in lane with it, then you can actually let Caps and Jankos run the show, play more of a team fighting style. And this is one of the most interesting teams to me at MSI here, because I'm going to be doing this thing where I'm tracking like first Dragon teams or first Herald teams. And I think this is an overgeneralization, but the teams that play on slim margins go for first Herald. It's more punishing, because if you get a 2,000 gold lead, lose a fight at 20 minutes, suddenly you're down 2 Drakes, and the gold is even, and the Dragon Soul is no longer a win condition. G2 was prioritizing first Herald in the regular season, but then actually just switched to team fighting Drake control. So it's actually more mistake allowable in that sense, but you can just rely on strong team fighting, and Jankos initiating pulling the trigger on stuff like Jarvan and ORN. That's a great picture, and that I think that's how he felt when he won the title. But
yeah,
what do you think about
100%. And it also goes down to the fact that a lot of teams in EU, at least with LEC, was really trying to make the Twisted Fate work, and they tried to play the open map. And yeah, I mean, you saw it. It really didn't work out.
Now, let's move on to their opponents, because again, Order find themselves in a position where they are once again the underdogs in the group. I think last year, Pentanet surprised a little bit with their performance, but between last year and this year, I think it is fair to say that the LCO has been gutted, shall we say. A number of players going over both to LCS, to ERLs. I mean, ERLs, Order, and the LCO's performance, Jett, like, what are your expectations when we see them in this group?
Yeah, we asked the question during the pre-show of, like, can they do what Pentanet did, which was make it to the Rumble stage? I think that would be unrealistic to expect that yearly, when a lot of the best players from this region will go to NA Academy or will go to the ERLs. But that doesn't mean that they don't have a chance. This team in particular did have a very scrappy run through the playoffs. Look to Kevy, their jungler, to try and play carry junglers. I hope we see Eve. Likely we'll just see Eve in the ban pool, because they actually said they have not lost a scrim or a game with Eve this year. But we'll see. We'll see if G2 respects.
And this is also a region that had Cillian as the in playoffs at the third most pick and ban champion, because it's like, well, we're fighting. We get to revive you. You can fight even longer. This is great. So this is a team that gets very scrappy, and a region that gets very scrappy, specifically around these objectives that we've already talked about. They are more a Drake-reliant team than a Herald-reliant.
Well, I'm very excited that G2 has experience against scrappy teams, because Hylissang Zilean was played like it was freaking Pyke.
It's in the mid lane this time.
I'm aware of that, but it's the experience. I do want to touch on the fact, as you can see, Order setting up on stage in Busan. One of the players that does stand out when you do think of Order, when you think of the LCO, is BioPanther. This is a guy that's made it to, you know, Worlds with 3 different teams. While he's not, let's say, the danger player for the squad, the captain, the most experienced, he's definitely an impactful voice. And this is a guy that, once again, is making it to an international stage at MSI.
Yeah, impressive that he's made it back so many times with 3 different teams. But for this tournament, I'm expecting him to be tank man.
Right.
Ornn, Sion,
Yeah.
if they need... So listen, there's like all these fancy ways you can play League of Legends, right? Like, let's split push, let's play Twisted Fate, let's make sure we're like doing these cool turret dives. Or you play 2 lanes, which very quickly becomes 1 lane. You take your tank through the mid lane, you put him in the bush, and you move.
It's called KISS, right? Have you heard the analogy? Vedis taught him KISS.
What?
Keep it simple.
Stupid.
Norman's fault was stupid.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean,
Keep it simple, son.
Simplify the game plan, simplify the approach, right?
And this is kind of what I think Order can do. Unfortunately, it's kind of what G2 did in the playoffs as well.
So that's the thing, right? The way I look at Order is the fact that they do the same as G2, but G2 does it better. And I think for Order, they'll really have a tough task, moving forward, coming up here as well, because once again, they're really aggressive on the objectives on both teams. And I think on the rotation perspective as well, Order is a little lackluster in terms of what they usually do. But I mean, we can see the stats behind us as well, okay?
Yeah.
And I love the fact you take a look, okay, first straight for G2 Esports in soul percentage. The same goes for Order. You take a look at the Herald, they're both 4th. And the thing is, these teams were really similar in regular season as well, in the fact that these stats weren't looking like that. In regular season, Order and G2 had the 3rd first streak, and their soul percentage was 23%. This time around, G2 opted with 23%, which is absolutely incredible. So once again, Herald, less of a priority. I'm expecting a lot of bot side priority around this streak.
Yeah, and let's remember the way this group is structured as well, because there are only 3 teams in it. G2 is going to play Order 4 times, right?
I love this. I love this.
Okay, I did this during rehearsal, but like, I like a visual representation of like a 20-80 matchup, right? It's not that Order can't beat G2, but like, I am very bad at flipping this. Like, Pentanet flipped this really well last year.
Oh,
like,
no, okay.
They were able.
So they're going to lose to G2 the first time.
Just because you can do it once doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it again. So like,
yeah, but you got to do it once.
And Jett here is saying they can't even do it once.
Nope. So that's 2. There's 4 games played. The 3rd one, right? You need to do
they
one
play
more.
4 times.
You need to do one more to represent all 4. There you go. So the prediction here, according to the ball, is 1 and 3.
They're going to win one of these games. It doesn't need to be this one.
I do need to expand on this in a moment. We do have a small delay as the teams are setting up on stage. Well, no, you can't. Well, when we get to Order versus EG, we'll do it again. What I will ask is, a production are going to be working on just pulling up the group standings or the group's graphics for us for a moment, because I do want to expand this out for a touch and just talk about the fact that in this group, NA, EU, LCO, right, all English broadcast regions, all ones that we're very familiar with, we'll spend a lot of time not only talking about and seeing, but all 3 teams also very happy with the draw. So while we anticipate that Order will place 3rd, they can be the difference maker. They can surprise, and you cannot write them off. You cannot underestimate them.
I mean, even in a best of 1 scenario, I think you take a team like EG as well, for example. Even the early game sometimes can be a bit sloppy, the late game very good, but the same can be said for G2 as well in playoffs when they're going up against the likes of Vitality. They were so close to dropping games. We saw it against Misfits as well in the regular season. Best of 1s really does matter a lot in terms of making, really finding your footing on the day. And for Order specifically, you're really counting on both your own skill, but also on your luck as well coming into these games a little bit, because it's no surprise that this is the team that kind of is on the back foot, and this is the team that will have to step up. I think at times and at their best, they do have tools to it, like when they sometimes play for Puma. He plays a lot of Vayne. You have Selena in the mid lane. Like, when you have a lot of these things that can go well for you, maybe you have these chances that can come through, but I have to reiterate, once again, they are the underdog, G2 are the favorites, and it is going to be a difficult game.
I mean, Caps Jankos, they won MSI in 2019.
Yes.
Do you guys subscribe to the Caps crowd buff?
Yes.
I think it's a real thing.
I think so too. When you look at playoffs, when you think of the finals weekend in particular, the 3-0, and Claps returning to stage after challenging last year, shall we say, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Caps and Jensen are different players, but I think they share one trait, where it's...
They're Danish.
Okay, they share multiple traits, but the one I'm going to talk about is as such. It's that I think because they've played for so long, they need motivators to hit peak performance. If you apply too much stress, that can be bad. But most of the time, like, I don't think you'll find someone who's like, oh yeah, Caps, this guy's really focused in scrims. Like, no one has ever said that about Caps or Jensen. So it's when he's playing in front of a crowd, I think it brings a higher level of focus for him, where you're able to see him play to his peak. And that's part of, I think, why G2 was able to make that 12-0 losers bracket run as soon as they were back in front of a crowd. And again, you're returning to MSI stage. It's the highest visibility with the crowd that he would have experienced since the last MSI, really. So, and Worlds back in 2019. So I think I'm expecting really big things out of Caps this tournament.
And I guess even like viewers will probably be like, oh, what about Flakked and Targamas then? They came from the RLs. They probably doesn't have that too much of experience. But don't forget, Targamas came from K-Corp, right? They've played in front of multiple crowds as well, who's really been there as well. Same for Flakked as well. He played in the LVP, multiple fans and big crowds as well. And honestly, from the side of LCO, they haven't had too many events. They've played online. They actually haven't been on this footing before. For them, for some of these players, that will be the first time they're playing in front of a crowd. And you have to rely on experience like BioPanther as well, who is the veteran, who's been to Worlds multiple times. Because don't forget, 4 of these players from Order have never been to an international.
And of course, some of the things that'll then be the inverse of that, right? While we anticipate some of these experienced players, the seasoned ones, the ones with a lot of titles under their belt, to kind of step up, now the pressure is going to be on these younger players, these newer players. Targamas, yes, I acknowledge the fact, right? But when you look at an LCK, a Korean fan base, and G2 is sitting there who have a pretty good record against LCK teams in recent years, you know, especially looking back to Caps Perks era, that does, you know, play a small factor. We're going to have to see what they're doing. The players are just starting to set up, so hopefully we should get to draft soon. But again, at least for Order, the underdogs, the unexpected, I mean, how can they surprise? How much of a thorn in their side can they be?
It's possible. I think they can be a small thorn.
Yes.
I also don't think that G2 will be struggling to move on from this group.
Yes.
The top 2 of 3 make it through. So a lot of this is just about getting settled and learning the meta for when they move into the Rumble stage. I got a fun fact, though.
Shoot.
G2's all-time record at international events. Do you know what this is?
No.
GB? 57-57. This can give them the winning record at international events. They started bad. Remember the first MSI?
Oh,
that was
I
the
do
vacation.
indeed. I remember it particularly. Yep.
I was a fan just trashing them on social media back then. So I remember
I will
it.
say
That's
as well,
what you do.
This is an organization that does go to Game 5s very regularly.
Yeah.
I also want to mention one thing. We've not talked a huge amount about EG, who G2 will be playing in the next game, right? They're playing back-to-back. In particular, JoJo versus Caps. That is not only a matchup that I'm excited to see 4 times, I cannot wait to see the social media game from both organizations and players, because there has already been spicy trash talk, and the fact that JoJo gets to watch Caps now, has already watched a couple games, and now gets to prep for what G2 are doing in the next match, it is also very interesting to try to ideate how do these teams adapt to the fact they're playing multiple games in a day.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well that for G2, they're one of the teams that will be having this back-to-back as well. Go on, yeah.
Okay, I'm getting the cue. We're almost ready.
Okay.
We're almost ready. We have a little bit of time for some final thoughts, and I'm going to ask for a prediction here as well.
Okay, first off, social media games. This is really unfair.
Yeah.
It is noon in Berlin right now.
Yes.
It's 3 a.m. Pacific time in LA, and it's 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. for Melbourne, like in Australia.
Same
so,
EU
like,
high while NA is sleeping.
I'm just saying, Order and G2 have like a massive social media advantage based on the timing of the event.
The excuses here already.
Yeah.
Just pulling out the QQ here because we have some EU time
It's an
zones that might
upvote,
help.
downvote system. Like if people are awake, then all you're going to see is positive Europe stuff.
Gentlemen, I would like to get some predictions here. Let's talk about who's going to win this game and why. Jett, you get to go first.
I think G2 is going to win.
God,
I
so
think
biased.
they're going to. I think they're going to actually fight every dragon, and I think they're going to win those fights and probably win in under 30 minutes.
I agree, and I think the only reason where Order really come ahead is where they get a lead, where the bot lane fumbles a little bit, and because of this, they can start stacking these objectives around the Drake, but I just don't see G2 falter like that.
All right, well, I hear that we are just a couple moments away from draft. We'll see if Order from Down Under can tear G2 asunder, but one need not wonder if the EU champions have the hunger.
That was a blunder.
Yeah.
Thank you guys on the desk for that wonderful one. We are getting into this one. I would agree. I think that G2 have the massive advantage. Poor NA always seemingly sleeping or, otherwise. We'll see if they wake up a little bit later on in this tournament. But yeah, what are your expectations coming into this one? I asked you a little bit before, but
I think
what are your thoughts?
The frustration for every time we have one of these LCO teams coming in is that I think their biggest strength in a group stage like this is that they play very differently to most of the major regions, right? They have their own style, they have their own picks, and that can catch a team off guard in the best of one, maybe once, as the Jett, water bottle prophecy may tell the tale of this team. Because you could play the Zed we saw last year, right? You could have those fun games. You could play Misfortune when no one else is playing it. But then you may find yourself in a position where after you've done that once or twice in a round robin with only 3 teams, you become very predictable, and those surprises no longer really have high value. And that is my concern for Order going into this extended round robin with a 3-team group.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but, you know, again, anything, I suppose, is possible. I really liked their point talking about, you know, a bit of stage experience, right? I think that Order is going to have to come in here and, I mean, everybody's getting on a flight over to Busan, both these teams are at least, and I think that G2, they've been on a stage like this many times before. I think they have the more veteran lineup. They definitely do on paper. And I think they should be able to handle it, especially in game number 1, a bit better. And I wouldn't be even surprised if we get another, you know, 25-minute game, just like they were saying. We've already had a couple of quick ones. And we'll see if it gets mixed up a little bit, but definitely seeming to be the overall thoughts from all of us here on the desk.
I do like something that was discussed on the desk as well about the biggest winner of this match, actually, I think, is EG, because they will be able to see what these 2 teams read on the meta is. They're kind of like the 3rd team in this best of 1, in fact. So that's very cool for them. And I think G2, like you said, the stage experience that especially Caps has, and Jankos as well, is going to really play big into this one. BioPanther has his own experience, of course. He's played in international events across 3 different teams right now. So, you know, in a lot of ways, he's kind of the leader for this squad. As we are finally now getting into pick and bans here. Let's see where the Lucian priority is this game around, because we've seen it so heavily picked up early on in the draft.
Or how about that Wukong that you guys have been going back and forth on a little bit? Maybe Jankos might want to pick that one up if it doesn't get first picked this time around. Very curious to see where that pick will go as the day comes along. There's the Lucian Prio. Does get banned away on blue side even, so Order not looking to first pick that one.
Yeah, and we see also Kevy's Graves is taken away. He's played a ton of Hecarim, but definitely fallen out of the meta big time, and we've seen Graves so popular today already is going to be removed. Ari, permaban, no Twisted Fate, no LeBlanc has also been a consistent theme here. See what the first pick priority is going to be for Order, as the Diana is also taken away. Another one of Kevy's favorite picks here in the meta.
As, yeah, Kale, not going to be the pick. Aphelios, one of the remnants of the old AD carry meta, might be seeing him for the first time today. Nope, it's just going to be Karthus first pick. Okay, yeah, totally normal.
This is the curveball style that you know, I was saying Order in their first few games will be able to toss these curveballs. It's very face-up in this draft, though, so G2 will have a lot of time to react to this, of course. But I think this style of drafting is something to expect for their games today, as we'll see what the response is going to be here. I don't think G2 expected the first pick, Karthus. Looks like they're going to try to lock jungle up early.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like the jungle pool is very healthy. You could go Lee Sin, you can go even Wukong, right? The Viego is going to be the pick here, and you're going to want to put some pressure onto that Karthus pick, as Elise is going to be hovered here, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think I was actually locked in. It looked like it was for a second there on our UI. I was like, oh, support Elise, I guess maybe. That'll be interesting. But no, will be the Aphelios coming through, and they're going to give the Elise hover back. Now, this is the Evelyn pick that was being discussed on the desk. You know, looking back at the stats, was banned almost every single game that Order played against, because Kevy's Evelyn is so good. You very rarely get the opportunity to, in fact, see it. But I don't think it's going to be locked in this case. The Misfortune is Puma's most picked in playoffs, and he will lock that one again. This is, again, if you watch LCO, these are the kind of things you expect to see. I'll pair it with the Leona here, it looks like. With the Aphelios coming across here, we are going to, for the first time today, see a late-game scaling AD carry in front-to-back team fights at work. So this game already is very different in terms of how it's going to look. We might actually have a game that crests the 30-minute mark here.
Imagine that. Don't get your hopes up, though. We'll have to wait and see on that one, Wolf. As just removing about 7 items from Caps' desk as he can get into the game. Bard did receive...
We're just troll hovering right
He did
now.
receive some buffs, but yeah, not going to happen. Braum is going to be coming in here. Obviously can throw the door up, block a lot of the damage from the Misfortune, especially if the Aphelios gets into a rough spot. So yeah, very safe, very scaling, just trying to get through the early game, not trying to skirmish too much in that lane. And yeah, I don't mind it from G2. Must feel like the favorites themselves.
So because Karthus has a great clear time, obviously, and can be very powerful in terms of scaling. His impact globally is very important. The said ban here, not a shocker.
Yeah.
But going to on that kind of note is, if Caps gets a champion that can have set up CC for Viego, whatever Kisee ends up playing here in the mid lane is going to be so difficult to play, because in the early parts of it, he will not have Kevy's help, you know, and when you have a Viego who can set up a stun for a mid laner who can then CC chain that together, Caps will have so much agency, whereas later on, obviously, the Karthus who's going to farm the jungle very well will have a strong impact. So I think the focus on the mid lane could have been an option here for Order in the second ban phase, but they take the Gangplank away instead.
Yeah, something to note with the Karthus, you really love him as the only AP kind of carry on your team. So I love the bans here from the side of G2. They want to take a lot of, you know, we already see the Graves taken away. We already see the Lucian. It's a lot of these high tier 80 picks already taken off the board. They're going to go ahead and take away 2 more from Kisee with the Aurelia and the Zed. And that means he might need to dig a little bit deeper into his champion pool, something AD to help Karthus just be able to be the only magic damage dealer on his team.
It's a really good call. And Zoe is some of that CC I was talking about, the setup for Viego, the burst damage she has and the pick potential against a jungler that is not very survivable, against a Misfortune that, you know, is not going to be helped with the composition just yet at surviving and avoiding these bubbles. You know, the Leona feels a bit of a kind of an awkward pick with the composition they've put together so far. Very strong for 2v2s, but in terms of moving around the map, can be very difficult. And I really like the Zoe pick for it. And there's the AD option they're going to go here with the Yone in the mid lane for Kisee.
Yeah, you know, we were asked what statues we wanted to put here on the desk for our first cast, the LEC studio. We went with the Yasuo. You know, maybe we should have looked at that Yone, but that's neither here nor there. As we are going to see Nasus hovered at the end here, but you know, it has been chosen, I believe, by this team at least once in the support role.
Lots of fun hovers in this first game between these two.
Yes.
The Aatrox actually goes so well with this draft, though, I think, for Order here, because they can win mid-game fights so extremely well. If they can control that part of the game, then the late-game Karthus comes through. He's going to have that ultimate that's going to hit the entire team. Scrappy fights around Rift Herald, second, third Drake fights, where Order can really hit big spikes. The Fiora response here for BrokenBlade, definitely a really exciting one, because it does give G2 opportunities to slow the game down in the later parts. The side laning he can put off is going to be so frustrating to deal with here. And getting into if he runs into the Karthus just can't compete. He doesn't have any tank stats really, so he can't really make an impact to help out, whereas Jankos has so much agency in both top and mid lanes here with the Zoe and the Fiora. So the early game is going to be so difficult here for Order outside of 5v5 team fights. But in the laning phase, I think G2 has such a massive advantage.
I would totally agree. I'm very glad that you put a lot of focus onto that jungle matchup, because, you know, it was very face up from Order. They're like, no, we're just going to, you know, Kevy's just going to farm. He's just going to sit there on the Karthus and hopefully he can make the late game. And then they're like, well, Jankos, maybe he just gets to rule the Rift on the Viego and we don't get to see any of that scaling at all. So very curious to see how this game is going to come through with that in mind.
Yeah, I definitely favor G2's draft here, but explosive team fights and some of those mid-game skirmishes is going to be the name of the game for Order. It's going to be how they have to win this. And it's going to be about execution. Again, nerves clearly don't seem to be an issue for Order with those hovers we were seeing. It feels like definitely channeling a little bit of the energy we saw from Pentanet GG last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to get into it, right? You just want to be a little bit just having fun, you know, relaxed. You want to try to get into it in that manner. As let's see how this one is going to go. I think this is a very exciting matchup. Will we see an early upset? How good are G2 really? Can they prove it here in this first game?
I don't think there are any nerves, you know? I'm feeling like personally, you know, the narrative we do sometimes as casters, we're like, oh, it's their first international event. Like, they could be nervous. There's a crowd. No, I don't think so. I'm just not feeling that right now. All right. Well, this is going to be a fun one. Whenever you get the Yone game, you know, a little bit of Aatrox, it does feel like the potential for things to go very wrong for G2 is high if things start off very well for Order, and if they end up winning that first Rift Herald fight, for example, that's one way that this game goes off the rails. But we will have to wait and see. Like, I don't want to predict how this game is going to go because the volatility of Order's comp is very high. Let's just say.
No, that's that's very true, very apparent, and you know, no Alistair this time around, no flash onto the two of them. I think this bottom lane can be very relaxed and perhaps even a little bit sleepy. We'll have to wait and see if I think Flakked and Targamas want to put on any pressure at all. Otherwise, maybe not. But guys, don't forget to grab your exclusive Scare Prize Prime Gaming emote so you can strut when you flash in and turn a fight. Definitely a very nice emote. Big fan myself.
Yep. Karthus is one of those jungle picks that in pro play does kind of come up every now and then, but it's usually not from your tournament favorite teams. It's also one of those solo queue champions that if you want to ride through solo queue, a lot of famous streamers like to play this pick. Not one that you see in a match like this very often, and one that I don't think we'll necessarily see from Kevy going forward in this group. They did it very face-up. And we've talked about the strengths of it. Obviously, it's clear time is the one that you're going to see. If you look at the CS numbers between Kevy and Jankos, he's going to have an advantage throughout all of this early game, and that's just the point of Karthus. He clears insanely fast. We watch it. But he isn't going to be a gank powerhouse in the early parts, and that's where things can go very awry in these solo lanes. So I think that is going to be the focal point for Jankos, is abuse Kisee, abuse BioPanther, if possible, look for those ganks.
Honestly, Bubble, comes in. He's totally fine. Exhaust being held right now by Caps. Just kind of laughing at Kisee. And as you mentioned, you know, Yanku's still dealing with his own jungle here. It's going to take him a while to catch up. And this is going to be the name of the game. But I think after, you know, one clear at least, maybe 1.5, 2 clears, he should begin to get a bit active on this map. Really loved the holding of the Fiora counter pick as well for BrokenBlade up in the top side. Maybe even expecting the Aatrox to come in, just looking for even more of that 80 damage on the side of Order with the composition with the Karthus. And should be having a pretty fun time on this one, although we do see Kevy just hovering around the top side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be able to battle very well into the Fiora, but the slow he'll be able to put down is actually massive into Fiora. And when Fiora's alone here without Jankos' help, like, there is some kill potential here. There's the slow.
Yeah, he'll just dash away, and actually, just going to repost that one. So BrokenBlade, I believe, took about negative damage from that trade, and now he's going in on BioPanther. Really able to get that weak spot as Kevy's still hanging around. Nice knock-up to really shore up the trade, otherwise not would have looked too good for the side of Order, and Kevy comes up here and helps push to get BioPanther out of this lane.
BrokenBlade knows exactly what he's doing, though. He's trying to keep Kevy here for longer, take away his farming time, and he knows that if he can bait a few more of these fights or a few more of these engages from the Aatrox, they can actually then turn it, because Jankos is pathing towards the top side here. Order realizes rather, don't stay too long, back away. But that was really well played from BrokenBlade. He could just catch the wave there under turret at no cost to him. And notice that even though it is a 0-0 game here, G2 have a massive hope. And this is a lot based on the CS numbers in the solo lanes.
So now, level 3 Braum, Targamas, he is here. With Kevy coming in from the top side to the bottom side, you should expect him to just come into his own jungle as the wall is going to spot him out. Kevy throws the thumbs up, kind of almost expecting it himself. And he should be fine, although he will lose some of these chickens. Yeah,
be unfortunate for Kevy here. And they're really making Kevy's life frustrating right now. He had a nice lead early, as you always do, and he still holds that CS advantage, but some of his jungle is being taken away. And it's the jungle matchup we talked about that's so difficult to play for the Karthus when there's so much explosive power in the Viego early. And solo laners can't really try to push advantages here because of that jungle threat from Jankos. They can't track where he is. And I think that's reflected in the CS numbers you see in both solo lanes. Like, BrokenBlade is more than double the CS of BioPanther. Another great riposte from him.
Uh-oh. Bit of damage coming in, and that's the smite on top of it. First blood. Caps able to close the door early in this matchup.
And that's going to be a whole wave that's crashed into this turret as well. Really unfortunate for Kisee. Is going to lose out. Does have the teleport. We often see Yone's take Ignite in a lot of different matchups to have that kill pressure. Luckily for him, he has the teleport, so won't lose too much of this. But it is pretty significant. G2 in these solo lanes, so much power.
Yeah, BrokenBlade, he's got level 6 here. He has even a nice amount of poke damage on a BioPanther already. It's just another lane that we knew was not going to be fun here for the side of Order.
Yeah, it's not fun, and you know, the power of the Viego into the Karthus means that you can push your advantage so extremely hard in these solo lanes. Even the bottom side here, a bit of trouble for Puma and Corporal. We'll take a look at this kill from Caps once again. Has the Chilling Smite picked up here, but he just gets over the minions, hits the Trouble Bubble, and despite the dash attempt here, Kisee cannot get away.
Yeah, it's just level 6 hit first, you know. I think you have to identify that in Caps. I think he's looking at another kill here, but the minions are coming in and didn't quite have the cooldown on his Q ready just yet. He is still level 7, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't need the kill. He's already done so much damage in this lane. As you see, Corporal will just hop away with the plant. You feel the dominoes already beginning to fall a bit here.
If Kevy was playing a jungler that has the ability to kind of assist and help out in these moments, Caps wouldn't be able to play like that.
That's a nice trade, actually, as the ult comes out from BrokenBlade, but it's a bit too little too late. BioPanther is able to outplay that, the riposte, I think a little bit ill-timed,
yeah, a little bit,
it led to his death.
A little bit ill-timed. Kevy has level 6 as well here. This was definitely a setup play for BioPanther. He's able to hit those knockups, and this is going to turn the tide a little bit here on the top side of the map. Finally, a little bit of breathing room for BioPanther. Getting that kill on the BrokenBlade, does not have teleport. Wave going to crash through. And now, you know, it opens up the map a little bit here for Order. And the longer this, you know, the closer we get to that first fight on Rift Herald is when Order are really going to start to actually look for this team comp's real power in Yone ult, in the Aatrox power in mid-game, obviously the ultimate that you can see from the Misfortune. All of these, you know, are extremely powerful on first Herald fight. Let's watch this fight again. Riposte early here, so still gets caught by the pull and is taken out.
Gets caught by the pull and a follow-up knockup. It's just kind of a disaster in the 1v1 trade. And BioPanther's like, yeah, I still have World Ender, so you are dead, mate.
No commitment here from the bottom side of the map here for Order on Rift Herald, which is a bit puzzling considering I think this is one of the moments where Order's composition is at its strongest to fight for objective, and they just simply give it up.
Yeah, I mean, Requiem not really going to be utilized here. You know, they don't throw it out because they're not willing to fight. And at the same time, you know, this dragon is eventually going to come up. But I think by that time, G2 can just wait and push with the Rift Herald and take another dragon. So not only are they winning in lanes, they're taking all the objectives. And it's a bit of dominance already here from the side of G2.
It really frankly is, and Jankos is going to get collapsed on.
He is way too deep in here as he tries to heartbreak and flash away. Is it enough? No, the Requiem will come in, and it will be enough as they hand that kill over to Kevy on the Karthus.
But it's not without cost. You know, the bottom side of the map here, Flakked is going to get a plate, I believe, down there. And, you know, this is an important pick. Is okay, here we go.
Flash comes in, and that might just be enough. He is going to put that ultimate into the back of Caps and take him down in the 1v1, picks up his revenge.
I feel like as we start to like pull the paper out to write the obituary of Order because the lanes are going poorly, G2 is dominant, they have this Rift Herald, and suddenly they strike back. Ultimate will be dropped here from Puma, the bullet time to clear the wave. But this means that G2 can't use this timing to actually instantly drop Rift Herald, give all those plates over to Flakked on the bottom side.
Nice block there from Corporal. Need to get that back for Puma. C needs some items to help out in that bottom lane that he is 10 CS down on. But yeah, it's nice to see some fight here out of Order. And some of those individual 1v1s are looking good. G2, you know, slipping up a little bit, and even this, you know, Jankos just on vision, not respecting the potential for them to collapse onto.
Yeah, I think the idea here for Jankos is the wave is going to crash into turret. So, you know, if they actually commit here, it will come at a cost. So he just doesn't expect it. He doesn't think it's likely they will actually end up going for this. But they in fact do. And as I mentioned, the cost is that the wave will crash into turret, and this is not a free pick for Order by any means. But I think that was the expectation. Jankos is like, okay, well, you really are going to give that up to kill me, and they did. And then Caps is caught here by a really nice ult from Kisee. So just some small errors in the lanes that end up being kills picked up. But still, CS numbers massively advantage here for G2. They have controlled these lanes, and they're still in a pretty nice spot. The first Drake goes over to them. They have control of the Drake pit for second Drake as it spawns here. And momentum is definitely in their favor.
Yeah, keep in mind they still have the Rift Herald, so again, they could use it to just help out in getting this Drake. Might not even need to, but we will have to see where they do decide to put it down. Jankos is down on the bottom side of the map right now, so looking likely that he can just throw it into that turret that's already taken a couple of plates worth of damage. And just get that in. We do have the Everfrost complete now for Caps, so he should be a lot safer in terms of, you know, not taking a turret shot and then just dying 1v1. So that is a nice little benefit to him. Here's going to be the Rift Herald value. They give a lot of that over to Flakked, as he is going to be just loving it here on the Aphelios.
Yeah.
Not a lot of action for him so far, but he's very far ahead.
Yeah, he really is. And it's going to be, it looks like, potentially an extra charge here. They're going to commit the bullet time to prevent that. Well, that's an ultimate down here. And with this wave push, the 4 wards that G2 had as well, so there's no wraparound, there's no flank potential here. They really thought of everything. There's just not a lot of opportunities for Order to punish this.
We got Kevy coming in from behind. BrokenBlade trying to get on in here to BioPanther as he is trying to hit those weak spots. He's got the healing, but he will be forced to flash over the wall anyway. And of course, with Kevy on the top side, G2 say thank you for the drink.
I really appreciate how Order tried to play this because they know there's absolutely no way that they can make a Drake play here with the bottom push, with all the warding and the positioning there of Jankos. So they decided to send Kevy topside here, but BrokenBlade flashes over the big wall. He's totally fine. Fiora is very mobile in these types of situations. They're going to commit even harder here on topside, but the wraparound is real. This actually could be punished by G2. You see the rotation up from Targamas right now. And I think Order realized, okay, this is all we're going to get. A few plates do go down, though.
Yeah, getting some value here for BioPanther. Again, a very experienced player in this roster. He was able to win in the 1v1 on this very difficult matchup, so allowing him to potentially be a win condition as the game goes along a little bit here in the mid-game should be pretty fun to see if they can make that happen. As you see Order, you know, they're still waiting for their first couple of items. The Yone here, Kisee. We also have BioPanther. The two of them not on a mythic just yet. So I think, as you're mentioning, you know, don't even fight over that second Drake. Just wait for the next one. Wait for the next big objective fight, and then we'll be ready to go.
And the thing about this comp is that these solo laners are so strong in skirmishes around these Drakes, but when they are this far behind because of the jungle matchup, they just don't want to take those fights, even though their comp is based upon them doing so. So, like, Order is kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place here. And the 2,000 gold lead, I think, hold that thought.
Jankos there, he's going very, very deep, has to heartbreak out of there. As you see, Order's trying to get in, but Corporal takes a big hit from the side of G2. As the Zoe hits him with the paddle star. Now Caps is looking for a bit more. Wants to get that execution onto Kisee, and he will be able to pick that one up just in time for the second Rift Herald. G2 with a big team fight win.
Yeah, it's massive here. A lot of extra gold going in their pockets. They had the choke point controlled. And like I said, you know, Order want to be able to take these fights around the Aatrox, around the Yone ult, but they just cannot do so when they have no vision, no control over the map. These waves in these solo lanes are losing Order this game very rapidly. It's interesting also to see Puma is going for the Kraken Slayer build here. It's more common in our region to see the Eclipse as Corporal once again going to take a huge chunk of damage. BrokenBlade once again just has a turret to hide under, so he feels very confident.
I don't know what BrokenBlade said to Kevy, but like, this is just not fair at this point. This is like the third or fourth time he's come to gank this lane, but the ultimate is going to be procced here from BrokenBlade. He's just surviving, just trying to delay as much time as possible. And yes, Order will pick up the kill.
However,
but at what cost?
Yeah, I mean, BrokenBlade is happy to try to escape down there. This time he dies, but the end result is the same because they drop a Rift Herald. So the cross map is better for G2. Yes, you did end up getting an extra wave to crash through, and BioPanther may actually be able to take that turret out. This is going to be another Rift Herald charge here. G2 are trading up in these exchanges. Look at how healthy this bottom turret is. It was not even touched, so it takes so long, and they could just escort this Herald further down, force a bigger reaction here from Order. And this leads to more vision control in the jungle. And it's just a compounding problem here for Order. And the first pick, Karthus, I think is really the biggest problem that we kind of have to zoom in on, because it's just not
trying to get on in here. Flakked's all alone, has to flash over the wall. He's going really deep for this one. He will pick up the kill and hop straight back as Kisee able to scoop up some of those kills that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I think he's playing this Yone very mechanically solid today.
Yeah. He's going to need more than these isolated kills, though. You know, he needs to have a big ultimate in an upcoming team fight for the sole point.
Dude, Puma, he's got the Nikes on today. This is kind of crazy. He's dodging everything, and now trying to go a bit forward. Kevy looking for that extra damage, but not quite going to get him in Requiem range. That will be just a nice setup from Puma's Caps and Targamas. We're really trying to get that one going.
So Flakked is respawned now. Drake is up in 60. Kisee, flashless and ultless. These are two tools that he would so desperately want to prevent this sole point from going over to G2. Now, this is the trade-off. You get a pick onto the AD carry, get a bit of extra gold in your pocket, which you so desperately need because you don't have your Mythic online yet. But the trade-off is now your biggest team fight tool with the Aatrox, and these mid-game fights, we talked about how this comp is good at that. You don't have it. Now you don't have your jungler either.
Yeah, okay, goodbye, Karthus. You see, he is not going to elect to use the Requiem, and he will come up here in 25 seconds, but he will not be available for this Dragon fight. So, suppose he could Requiem when he does come back, but you can see that the amount of siege that G2 have as well, with just even Zoe and Aphelios from ahead, is enough to just control so much of this mid lane.
Like, look at the vision.
And they're going to take this Dragon as well for free.
It's actually quite insane, as Dragon is taken for free.
It's a lot of damage into Kisee, but it's a nice little bait, and they bit the bait there as now the Requiem comes in. Caps is also going to go down. That's a couple of kills under the belt here of Order, just like that.
It's extremely greedy from G2 to push that far into all the CC and the setup there with the Leona, obviously, and the Yone. But the vision control that's set up down here on the bottom side is actually just quite insane. You can see all the wards here for G2 on the bottom side of the map. So they feel very comfortable just pushing down bottom side and going for the Drake solo for Jankos. And these tradebacks have made the gold lead a little bit shrunken, right? Order has the kill advantage right now, and this will lead to a mid-turret take. But these champions are starting to lose their power spikes, right? They're going to fall off in the later parts of the game, and that's the bigger concern. If the Yone ults had been big to lead to Order controlling Drakes and having, if they were the ones who were holding 3 Drakes right now, we wouldn't be talking as much about how this composition scales later on. But because they're the ones who are facing Soul Point, they're on a big clock right now, and the time is ticking down very fast. As this is how Kevy died, we were kind of in a bit of a replay when this did occur. Really nice ult from Flakked there at the end to finish him off. It's just the pick potential this comp has, and when you have vision, this much control, Caps has so much agency. Now this is a bit of an overextension here from BrokenBlade.
Yeah, I mean, they have all the vision in the enemy jungle, but they don't have vision behind the Yone, so they're like, oh, it's just him. We can take him out real quick. We have a lot of damage. We're very far ahead. And then, of course, you run straight into MF and Leona, and you begin to question your life decisions, your life choices, as we will have the Randuins here for Caps. Might help him out a little bit, actually, as the teleport is coming in. Kisee takes a lot of damage. Does go and proc that shield bow. Here comes BrokenBlade. Will he actually dive the turret? Looks like the answer is no.
Kisee does not have ult because he used it to escape. So BrokenBlade might feel, you know, like maybe I could actually dive this and pull this off when this wave crashes through. But we'll think better of it. Is a level down as well in this matchup. Decides to walk away. A lot of extra free side laning going over to BioPanther as well, the top side of the map here. Order are playing the macro aspects of this game well, despite the fact that the bottom side of the map has completely belonged to G2. But if it was a side laning champion that scales later, I think it would be more interesting, right? Than a 2-0 Aatrox pushing top side. But what will it mean when we reach the 25-minute mark of this game is the real question that I don't think Order have an answer to.
And you can see them grouping up now in mid, just trying to take more map control as a team. I think that's kind of what you have to do with this composition. As now they're looking to pull the trigger. Here comes the wobble combo. Targamas is just going to get 100 to 0'd. You see Jankos and Flakked are like, well, nobody else is here. We're not looking to take these team fights, but just flew a little bit too close to the sun, and now 5v4. Order immediately going to get to work on this dragon.
This is the type of team fighting that Order's comp is looking for. These scrappy fights, these isolated picks, and doing it right before an objective like this is how you can win games like this.
They might just be able to do it. Huge damage over the wall, though, from Caps. Kevy is so low. Corporal trying to frontline, and a huge Flakked ultimate comes in. The AoE damage is just too large for the side of G2, but the Requiem from the grave is coming in. It's not quite going to be enough. G2 will be able to take down not only the entirety of Order, but the Baron as well, and they will even take down BioPanther on the backside of this fight.
Really nice read here from G2. You could also see the coaching staff as well. Very relieved, I think, with the scenario. BioPanther, not enough lifesteal to survive through this one, so he's taken out. It's an Ace plus Baron buff here. Going over to G2, Flakked is already going to go ahead and take out an inner turret. So this Baron power play, the Red Bull Baron power play here in this game is going to be pretty massive, you have to imagine. As the control here for Order feels pretty uncrackable. But Caps is able to get a trouble bubble over the wall. It's 20-minute Baron, so the damage isn't there. So the health bars are pretty low. And when Flakked comes over here and has the AoE damage, you just can't win this fight anymore. They should have pulled out early when they realized G2 had the read on this, but they felt priced into it, and that's why taking 20-minute Barons is just not something you see very often, especially when you don't have a choke point that the enemy team is funneling through. And yeah, this is the reaction, of course, here from the coaching staff of G2. Very hyped about that turn.
Yes, very true. Some concerned faces as well in that house. So understandable with the way this game has gone.
Look at the damage for Flakked. Nearly 5,000 in that team fight at 20 minutes because of the big ultimate there.
Yeah, he just infernumed the entire backline after Caps set it up with the Palace Star, and it was enough to get the job done. So now looking to push in, already have a 4,000 Red Bull Baron power play. Of course, they're looking to push in to this base and get even more of this game.
Yeah, this is one of those games that the control of the side lanes has led to so many problems for Order. And then the lead that G2 has now on the map and the Baron buff, that's 4,000 we're looking at right now, 4,200 nearly, means that there's not one ward for Order on the map. There's nowhere you could be. You have to sit in your base, and G2 are just going to demolish these turrets with the siege you talked about earlier.
Kevy just stepped on that bubble.
He's so far back, he'll be okay, but it's just the story of this game.
Just means it's a free turret here. They're looking for a bit more as a 3-man knockup, actually, from Targamas on that Braum. And you can see Kisee, he's trying to use some of that, those early skirmishes, some of that early gold that he was able to get, but it's not quite enough. Not sure what that was from Flakked. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. But other than that, they get an inhibitor, and they should be able to pick up the Cloud Soul as well. It's very early on, 23.5 minutes into the game.
Caps has a Void Staff. He's got 8 stacks of Dark Seal in this game. His Zonias is online. He can be places that the Zoe should be allowed to get. He can hit trouble bubbles. But again, I just want to highlight the ward coverage once again on the bottom side of the map here. It's so scary when you don't know where Caps is to even walk out to clear wards, because he will trouble bubble you, burst you down, you're dead, that's the end of the story. So when you don't know where Caps is, you're like, can I even take my red buff right now? Is it safe? And slowly they group up to clear those wards away. But G2 are already moving towards, top side of the map. It's just so difficult for Order to win a team fight now when the burst damage that Zoe has and Aphelios has is really well and truly online. Misfortune can't keep up with that unless she has an amazing ult that's set up by Yone ult, but he just gets burst so quickly, gets slept while he's trying to set these up. Your opportunities are limited, Valdes.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say with so many words.
Yeah, you take the goal difference graph, and something happened there after 20 minutes. I'm sure you guys remember the Baron call, one pick into thinking they can do it, and they have a Karthus. They have a lot of damage on the Baron, but just a little bit too early and a little bit too much poke damage from the side of G2 was all it took. It was a great fight, and I think Order got a little bit too far ahead of themselves on that one. So now Kisee is committing very heavily onto a fed Fiora, or at least a Fiora at all. Not very fed, but
Hullbreaker.
Able to survive enough, right? She has Hullbreaker, she has a stopwatch.
Yeah.
You're not gonna kill her. It's not gonna happen. As Corporal will just die. and BrokenBlade will be able to use that. Really nice knockup from the Aatrox. BioPanther really trying to make a case here to win this one towards the end, but with the Requiem coming out, we might get a kill here. Nope, not quite, as he will actually die before it goes off. And now G2 just cleaning up the pieces of the puzzle here. Flakked, really nice stopwatch. That's one to win my heart, indeed, as a stopwatch connoisseur myself. And that might just do it. Everybody on the side of Order goes down, and G2 are in the base and looking to end this game.
Yeah, they've got a set of super minions coming down to the bottom side as well. Cap's just looking for more kills as they wait for the minions. This one's all over but the crying, unfortunately, is Corporal's gonna look for a stun setup.
Yeah.
And it will not happen.
He's trying to, he's trying to do his best, but yeah, it's gonna be the end of the game, guys. G2 with a strong showing here. Not the cleanest game, but they got it done in swift fashion. About a 27-minute game once again, as Caps with a star performance on the Zoe this time around.
And the Viego pick has always been a staple of the LEC. I think it was more popular in the LEC than other regions for a long time, and obviously it took off in the LCK in particular later on. But it was such a great response to the early Karthus pick, and those solo lanes just could not operate at all whatsoever because Karthus just can't protect those lanes. You got the Viego there, the CS advantages were real. And the kills that we did see, unfortunately, from Kisee were not at impactful moments. They were not at moments that could lead to advantages, except the Baron they attempted but then failed. And you could see the ideas behind the composition, but I think G2 just reacted so well. And they had the better draft. They outplayed them through the mid-game. Vision control was real, and this is a great sign. I think if you're EG watching this game, you were hoping you were going to maybe see some weak points, but not in this first one. I don't think G2 showed any problems whatsoever. Yeah,
generally not, outside of some of the skirmishes, some of the 1v1s, but as you very correctly mentioned, it wasn't enough. You could win a couple of 1v1s, but that's not going to win the game at the end of the day. So, yeah, the expected result has come out here, G2 with the victory over Order. And very nicely done.
Caps crowd buff seems real.
Yeah.
Really great
plays
from him.
They're popular down there.
Yeah, I think it might surprise a lot of people to know this, but G2 is an extremely popular team in Korea. And I think because G2 has defeated Korean teams in international events in the past, I think that got a lot of Korean fans respect. So I guarantee you there's a lot of people in Busan right now who specifically came to watch G2 play. They're so happy they're there in Korea. And it must be awesome for Caps to be able to experience that as well, once again in Korea.
I can guarantee it. And guys, speaking of G2, we have a banger coming up in game number 4 as G2 will return to the stage for our featured matchup for the day, presented by Mercedes-Benz. NA versus EU, G2 versus Evil Geniuses. Do not miss it.
For the West, the tone of this tournament will be set with a single matchup. NA versus EU, EG versus G2. More than just pride and bragging rights ride on this Mercedes matchup.
I think we're gonna fit on EU, but we'll have to see.
EG are not just the representatives of the LCS and North America, but the torchbearers of North American talent. Results here could ripple through the entirety of their league for seasons to come.
He's gonna shoot! You're kidding me! Kill number 1! Here comes kill number 2! Baron and Penta, are you insane?
G2 were the best in the West, and for one shining moment, they were the best in the world.
What peak League of Legends looks like, and it comes from Europe!
Now, after a year of crushing failure, they once again chase glory on the international stage.
G2 claim their 9th title!
There is no better way to kick off MSI than with the historic rivalry of the LEC and the LCS.
Go riders, go right, gasoline lighters, more fire. Skid tires, blow up dynamite, need more wires. 너의 샤이들이 올거무하면 조용할 거야 일어나면 그렇게 만들어 cold water. Set it off like this, set it off like